in the Bible, people used to battle in big battles like off the movies, where the two huge armies are facing each other and then it's an absolute slaughter when they meet. So I'll try and do things a bit different. So, do you think the people who were on the side of God, who were there fighting for him and his people and with his backing, essentially a sponsorship, which comes with powers, whatever he decides is necessary and just, do you think those people, when they were facing the opposite army, do you think God's people were full of adrenaline and shouting and egging themselves up, you know, winding themselves up? Or do you think they'd be calm? So my take on it is, no way would they be calm. No way. You're fighting for God, but you're still fighting, aren't you? So you're going to need adrenaline. You're going to need to psych yourself up. I mean, for instance, apparently a lot of these people back in the day, the tribal warriors, used to get hyped up on like opiates and then go into war because they were fearless. That would make them fearless, you know. And so yeah, I wonder. So like, adrenaline's probably the next best thing, really, isn't it? You're not going to go to war drunk here. That's the night before. You go on a hangover. You do the sensible thing. You go on a hangover, not when you're actually drunk. That's sensible somehow. My head's hurting. Well, in a minute, mate, when that axe hits it, you'll feel like you could be got an axe in the head, and you have. You'll feel it twice. And yeah, well, do you think they were full of adrenaline and shouting like animals? And then I also thought, well, sorry, no, do you think when they got into battle, do you think they were acting like animals, swinging, biting, kicking, stabbing, you know, everything they possibly could to survive, which it's looked quite crowded, doesn't it, all these film reenactments? And you think, yeah, you could easily, it wouldn't take much for some random person just to come up and just swipe you in the back with an axe and you'd be dead, no matter how hard you are or how good you are at fighting. Like, say for instance, even the three people in front of you, you still got three people in front of you, no way you're looking behind you, no way. And it's so crowded. So it seems to me that the whole thing, no matter how good you are, is still completely random, isn't it? And that's scary when death in a gruesome way is presented in a random way. No matter how hard you've trained, no matter how good you are, some could ride up on horseback, couldn't they? Wouldn't even be someone close. You could be somehow keeping an eye behind you and the three blokes in front of you because you're that good, right? And you've survived all the other battles. But then some random dude gets away on a horse, and as he comes past, he's like, oh, this dude will do, he's the enemy, bam, you're gone. You know, so it seems to me so random. So there isn't really no answer. So, yeah, God's people would need him behind him to win. I don't know how many casualties. I don't know if there was and how many. In these stories, I'm pretty sure it doesn't say, oh yeah, and like everyone survived, you know, miraculously everyone survived and no one died, which is obviously seems impossible, doesn't it? So that's never happened. So then of course I think, oh well, I wonder the people that did die, I wonder if they were, you know, because they were the bad people, because there's always rebellion in any of God's group. Well, they were up until Judgment Day. There always will be, and there always has been, and God's put up with it and lets people have, give enough rope, and let's see if they'll turn good and say sorry or not, or double down on their sins and do it again and worse, and then their judgment is final, isn't it? They've got the conscience, they understand right from wrong, but they're making the effort to ignore their conscience and override the behaviour chip that God's put in us, that we can actually override if we want, unlike robots who can't. They either have behaviour or don't. They can't choose to override it or not. So that alone is a great gift. The fact that we've been able to, we know our guidelines, but it's up to us whether we choose it. And that is the true definition of free will. So to be fair, he had to give us free will. You see, he's in a lose-lose situation, really, with his free will business. It really is a big deal. It really is. Robots or animals, in the middle there's us with a conscience, but we have free will. He's made the conscience hard to override, so there's massive detectives going, no, this is wrong, stop it, it's going to hurt someone, stop it, stop it, stop it. But we make the effort to override it. However, it's not all our fault, because in the world we live in, there's a lot of fear and anger. So that overrides that conscience as well. When we're fearful, the old flight or fight situation, I believe when we're fearful, or when I'm fearful, there you go, sorry, it's never directed at you, it's just me. When I'm fearful, oh, I see, I've done it again, I lost my train. Oh, I hate this BPD sometimes. It's so inconvenient. Oh, mate, see in a minute. Not a second. That worked out well, actually. I was waffling on about something else. Right, yeah, so the mindset, absolute nightmare, isn't it? The mindset of the people who went into battle. So this is what, all right, I'll do it my way. I can't do it the other way. Keep asking you questions. So yeah, all right, I'll crack on. So this is, I know. So this is what made me think. I thought, right, so if they've got adrenaline going through them and they're fired up, when I joined the Army Reserves and in the training, they did the bayonet training and they got us fired up. They got us fired up for the bayonet training, and then we did our bayonet training, and then afterwards they said, right, you all need to go and calm down and don't be nasty to each other, because this is the time when fights will break out. They specifically said, look, the fights could break out now because we've just wound you up. We just spent an hour winding you up on purpose, getting your adrenaline going, making you scream at the top of your voice, you know, making you do bayonet training. It's savage. And, you know, you have to, they're like, you have to be like that. So that's interesting, isn't it? So even the army says, oh, well, this is when you're facing an opponent and you've got blades, or, you know, handheld weapons like that, then that's how you be. You get aggressive and adrenaline. And it's for your own safety, isn't it? Also, it's scare tactics. You know, the scarier you shout and look, isn't it? The less brave the enemy's going to be. So yeah, it's all psychological and for you and the enemy, really, isn't it? You're in a state of mind where you're pumped up and ready to go, and that you're scaring the enemy. So it's a very clever psychological state of mind for both of you, which obviously makes the enemy not as active as he normally would be if he thought, oh, this is going to be a pushover. You know, he'd be more confident, wouldn't he? And I'm supposed to be better, more confident. Would he? Unless that bloke on the horse rides up, sweeps in the back, there's always some dude on the horse randomly riding past and taking out these heroes or people. Not you again. So I've been doing this for years, son. You ride in, you swoop, you take the big one out, and you ride off next to the next battle. He's like Batman from the previous video. You never known. Brilliant. All you never know me by is 4 horse legs. And a sword and a head flip-flopping about that's just a part of the body. Hey, yeah, guess what? I've remembered this time, I remember where I am. So yeah, the mindset of these people. And then I thought, right, well, what happens when they got home and that? And then I thought, well, sorry, what I really thought was, you know, the after effects, but how's that godly? How could you be like that? Like an absolute brute savage, like you would have to be, hacking limbs off, you know, all everything that comes with full frontal battle, like they used to, well, being portrayed in the movies. How could you be like that and still be godly? Because it would definitely have an effect on you. Not only that, you probably trained for it. You're probably in the you know, in God's army, essentially, in the army of his people, and God's people in their army. So you train for it. You know, when you're training, you know, you're not going to be nice about it, are you? Basically, you're not going to be nice about it, are you? It's war. You're fighting to survive. In their case, they didn't attack people; they just got attacked. So they were literally fighting righteous violence. Again, righteous violence. You're fighting for survival. It's built in us. Why is fight or flight built in us? Because for our survival, exactly. So they were fighting the same way that we do, fight or flight in a critical situation. They were fighting for their survival. So they had to train to fight for their survival. This is my train of thought. Did they have to get nasty to try to train for their survival? How long did they stay nasty and aggressive for? Training to be nasty and aggressive to survive isn't a godly way. This doesn't compute. Ow, my brain hurts, it doesn't make sense. And do you know what? I could not think of the answer. And today it just struck me. It's one of them stroking a cat things. Ready? Right? You ready? Strap in. Ready? Get your brain on. I think right, we're gonna go somewhere together, and it's a bit deep, but don't worry, we'll come out the other end. Maybe a bit wet. It's a water park, don't worry. What was I on about? Hey. Hold on 2 secs. Hi. Yeah, no, a minute. Right, yeah, my epiphany was I was trying to figure out and I couldn't find the answer to how you could be aggressive and nasty and violent in defence, fight or flight. It's built in us. They were being attacked. It wasn't their fault. How can you be like that and still be godly? And I couldn't come up with an answer, because it would have an after effect and a previous effect. You would be training for it. So it's your whole environment, really. Fighting is, you know, how do you fight in a nice way, in a godly way? How do you fight in a godly way? That's basically it, isn't it? Physically, how, you know, even for defence, on that scale, you'd have to get brutal. Absolutely brutal. Anyway. So, the conclusion I come to was, I'm setting rules, I'm setting parameters, aren't I? I'm saying you have to be violent and aggressive to be able to do that stuff on behalf that's godly, your righteous violence, defending yourself and your people, with God's backing. So, you know, that's the answer. The answer is, I was setting parameters. So the answer is, you don't have, so that, what's the opposite? There's only two things. That's why I couldn't find an answer. What's the opposite to being like that, to being angry and violent, necessary? Well, okay, the opposite is being nice about it. Right, okay, here we go. You ready? Big one, Big Dipper. How'd you be nice about that sort of a thing? How? Right? And I'm like, oh, I can feel something coming. I can feel something coming. And then it went, boom. There it is. Yeah, finger tastes horrible anyway. I should have washed it. I didn't plan on doing that. So, yeah, I came up with it. Somehow, when you have God behind you to that scale, when you're facing the enemy like that, and it's like gangs of New York sort of brutal crap. When you're facing the enemy, God's behind you that much that I would speculate he would give his people a sense of calmness and a sense of, Mr. Limitless can do anything. He would just give them a sense of calmness and a sense of confidence. And I dare say before that, he might have even shown them miracles to, you know, prove that he, you know, look, I can literally do anything. Like, you've really got no problems stepping out there tomorrow on my behalf and, you know, doing what's right. So yeah, and because they must have known that they had his backing that much in sponsorship, that I would imagine. So then I think down to the critical bits. How were they swinging their swords? Were they angry about it? Were they aggressive? Were they really attentive? Or were they almost under maybe some sort of godly spell, but in a positive way, where their actions just, you know, like they came in and they swung the swords and it just took someone's head off straight away, the enemies, you know, and then maybe they moved around and realised someone was approaching them from the left and realised their sword's in the perfect position to carry out that manoeuvre that they've been practising. So they did a quick left jab and that one was defeated. And maybe it was just like that. And like for every one of them, everything just went well. Even in a mad situation with the random horse rider chopping people and just riding off. But yeah, maybe everything just went well for them. Obviously, this is a very simplistic way of thinking of a battle, isn't it? You got bows and arrows and all sorts of cavalry. You got everything involved in the ground, you know. But yeah, it's so maybe when they've got God on your side to that scale, because it's needed that much in that situation, and there's, you know, thousands of people, and if they lose, all the people at home get pillaged, don't they? So and you know, ransacked, command and conquer style. So yeah, there's a lot at stake. So, you know, Jehovah's gonna ramp up his help, isn't he? So yeah, I would speculate that just like the tribal people in the past went to war on kind of opium for confidence, I would speculate that the way Jehovah's people were able to not be aggressive and animals in an animalistic, brutal, aggressive situation that depended on their winning. I would suggest that God helped them to the point, also prepared them with miracles to show them he can do anything, and then gave them confidence as well as some sort of, you know, good feeling and euphoric, confident feeling. Or maybe the miracles were just enough, whatever grandeur scale they were on, if they were enough to make the people go, right, do you know what, wow, there's no other option. Like, that's what miracles are about. You mostly see him and go, right, he really is the true God, wow. And that's why it does it. That's why God has to do these magic tricks. Because we're immortal humans. We only believe what we see. That's it. If we don't see it, we don't believe it. Which is why I brought my analogy of Bluetooth up. But we don't see it, do we? It's just in the air. But we use an input and output device to manifest. If we didn't have the phone and the speaker, and we lived back in caveman times, how did caveman would have known that Bluetooth would have existed? Well, they didn't, did they? Bluetooth was only discovered in the 70s. So for 2,000, 3,000 years, Bluetooth existed and no one knew about it. And it's only now that we've got the input and output device to harness what seems invisible force of Bluetooth to use it. So, you know, straight away, you know where I'm going with this. What else is out there that we didn't know? Let's say we live back like in 1,000 years. No one would still be any other wiser as to Bluetooth. And if you was to time travel and go back then and say, look, there's this thing that exists in the air right now, all you have to do is create this and this and you can use it. And they will go, you are crazy. He's talking about things that exist in the air. What? You know, and you know, you'd probably be killed because it was brutal back then, wasn't it? Or put in prison, you know, take your pick. But that's just an example of how this backward world promotes backwardsness, and actually everything backwards is forward, everything, more or less everything wrong is right, really, the big issues. And I'd say all the small issues that do seem right, and you're going, oh, how can that be wrong? I'm not saying everything wrong is right, I'm saying where'd you hide a tree in the woods? So all the big issues that are actually wrong, but, you know, the world's telling us are right, they're promoted, and they're backed up by all the little things that actually are right and wrong. Do you see what I'm saying? So, like the film, you can go, well, look, George Orwell's 1984, it's a fantasy. It's been around for years. Everyone knows it's a fantasy. I can't believe you're comparing it to the dystopia of what's going on with this government and this real life. And you're crazy. But the fact is, the government have already planned this, and they put the film out knowing that people will compare will start complaining about the future dystopia. And when they do start complaining about the future dystopia, it's obvious that everyone will make the connection to 1984 because that's the way the government's planned it, and they made the film based on their future premise of what they're going to do. So now they've just told everyone what they're going to do blatantly. They're all having a laugh, and the few people that go, hold on a minute, that's pretty much where we're going or what we're living in now, they get told they're crazy, and they're just speaking the words of a fantasy film. See? Backwards world. Whatever you do, don't have a poo.